Welcome to this short introduction to MapX initiative and the MapX tool. And this is targeting the UNFPA colleagues. So I'm here under the mapx.org website, which is the entry point for MapX, and from which you can go to access data to actually enter the tool. So I'm going to click on that later, but just to tell you that MapX is an initiative, a tool that has been developed by UN Environment Program, and the technical arm of it is the Grid Geneva office in Geneva, in which I work for almost a decade, and I was responsible for the development of this MapX initiative until 2018. So I'm now going to the tool Access Data, and this is where you're going to go if you click on that. So MapX is really a tool to display information, to look for data layers, to interrogate data layers, and to do really nice graphical output, as I'm going to show you. And what you should know is MapX is built only based on open source software, stack of softwares and libraries. It is quite light, so we've developed it so that it's accessible even if in African countries when you have a low bandwidth. But you should know that AccessMod is not MapX, or is not a software that we distribute. It's really a platform, and so it's a service that we can give, but we don't give it freely to everyone. Depending on the level of implication that we have, if organizations want to put data or to store data or to interact, then we enter in a contract with them for some services. But of course, being behind this development at University of Geneva, we have also some link with the team here, and for UNFPA, we can, at least for as a starting point, we can work in having some of the data of UNFPA and showing how it works and showing the benefits. So I'm here in this platform, and I can zoom in and zoom out, basically like Google Maps. And you see that we have it's vector based, so it's quite fast. We have the OSM data in the background and other type of data. And if, for example, on the left, I can display, I have a lot of different layers here in MapX that are roughly around natural resources. But I'm going to show you in the second part of my talk some dedicated data in geohealth, and of course the EMONC data that we've been working with UNFPA. So this is a raster data here of some accumulated precipitation estimates that we can look at. You have the legend. You can click on a pixel, and sometimes they would give you the value. And then you have a lot of tools here to give you information on that layer. I won't go into the details. To show you, of course, for example, that we have some vector data. This is quite a big data set of conflict location and events. So there are thousands of points, so that's why it's a little bit slower to display. So all these points are the data from MACLED of conflicts, and if you click on one of these points, then you have information on the number of fatalities, the year, etc., etc. So of course we can have here, when you click on a point or polygon, any information that is in the underlying geospatial layer. So that's very, very handy. And we have all sorts of other data. For example, this is the World Database in Protected Area. Those are polygons, vector, different type of protected area. If you click on them, you have different informations on the categories, IUCN categories and others. So a lot of data, and of course you can display this data on top of each other. You can, for example, play with the transparency of some of this layer to show better another layer that is on top of it. So a lot of these handy tools that are similar to what you found in a GIS. Another interesting tool, if I come back to my ACLED dataset, is that if there is any kind of temporal dimension to your data, then you can use that temporality to filter your data and to showcase your data. So first, you can easily filter those data. For example, if I want to show only the data with more than 500 casualties, and I can just, in my legend here, select this, and it will automatically filter this data. Now, if I have a temporal aspect, I can also filter my data by date. So I just move that temporal filter here. I can play with it, and I can only display those data that are within a given period. That's quite nice. Give you flexibility to look at your data and to showcase only part of it. And as you can see, there are a lot of different data. I can, of course, have my satellite image in the background at any time, and we have several services of satellite imagery, of course, Google Earth, Google Maps, Bing, and others, OSM. So it's quite handy. I have, again, just a lot of other data. This is the area of data from Google that we can get here, fetching these services. The interface is available in different languages. We have English here, but I can switch immediately to French. So all the names in the map are now in French, and all my tools, everything is in French. And currently we have a few other languages here that are available, and it's easy to add any new languages to it. So going back to English. Now, I'm going to show you a last, I would say, a very important functionality, which are called story map. So story map, and I'm going to show you one. So I can filter my view here. I put story map, put story, and I'm going to showcase that one. So story map, I'm launching now a story map. Story map is simply a way to deliver a narrative, a message, but with really enhanced display of information, maps, videos, images. So I'm here, I've started a story map, so I can just scroll through it. So you see that we have put some messages, some images, and some maps in the background. So I'll continue to scroll, and it zoomed to a particular area. And what is quite nice in story maps is that at any time you can, if you want, go out of this story mapping and interact with the data in the background. So I can zoom to my points here, I can click on one of these points, and I've got all the information. I can really interact with the map, and then when I'm ready, I go back to the story map and I can continue my story. So that's very powerful. Here we see a kind of heat map of the ACLED data, and again I can go in and zoom in an area, and really the map behind is really dynamic and interactive. So I can continue. It's really like PowerPoint slides, but on steroid, with a lot with all the power of the mapping. And so we continue, and everything, and here we see a dashboard, and I'm going to show you that later. But everything you see here on this story map, the story map can be made directly from MapX. So within your browser, you can edit the story map, you can decide what to put, the transitions, the text. So it's quite easy to make actually. You don't need an external software to make a story map. Everything is done within MapX. And we have transition, we can zoom to this area, and it's quite nice. So this is a story map. I'm gonna close that now. I think you understood the concept. Now, so I'm going out of the story map, and now I'm gonna show you more specifically what we've done with global health and the eMonk data in MapX. And again, this is just an initial draft, and of course we'll discuss how to improve that. So I'm moving now to another project called Global Health, and I gave you access to it in MapX. So in that particular project, I've put some of the data we've worked with and that I'm working with in my research. And I can, for example, fire the population of Togo here, which is the world map. Of course, if I click on a pixel, then I get the population estimates here of my map, which is quite nice. And what I've put in MapX already are the travel time that we obtain in our different workshops. This is the travel time that you know well on Togo. If you click somewhere, it should come. It's a little bit slow here, but we should get the estimates of the travel time. And I've also put the travel time of Senegal. So here you go. This is the travel time map of Senegal. Put that of Burundi and of Benin. So if I switch them on, and now it's nice now that you see, we can see Togo and Benin side to side, and of course, which is quite nice, and you can interact with it. Now, what I've also put in here are the catchment. So if I put my catchment area here of Togo, we have the catchment area. You can click on it. It will give you some information here, if it's from a BMOC, a CMOC, or whatever information that we would have in the underlying shapefile. So you can imagine that if we click on a catchment, it could give us the population within that catchment. It could give us many other information, maybe how many BMONC is there in any CMONC catchment, anything that we would like. And it's quite nicely rendering. This is shapefile vector data, so it loads very fast and you can interact with it. So I have also other data here that I've put, but what I suggest is that I just show you a story map that I made in MapX. Again, this is a story map to present my research group, but I've put in here some of the data from our work. This is the country in which my group is involved, and in yellow you can see the country UNFPA in which we went. It has to be updated, and you can have some images. I've put here the image you know well on maternal mortality. And then I'm showing you that. It's quite nice. I'm zooming now in DRC, in an area, to showcase that, there are a lot of accessibility issues. So I found this really interesting video that you probably know on a 5-hour video of a woman leaving her village in central DRC and walking for 5 hours to reach the nearest maternity to get a 7 months pregnancy checkup. So we follow that woman for 5 hours and we can see the accessibility issue. So I think that's quite nice. You can put this video here, interact, show where it's at. So it's quite an interesting way to show that. I continue in my story map, and now we go to Togo, where I show a few of the data. This is the EMONC facility network here, and again I can now go in my map, click on one of these EMONC point, and I've got all the information, the indicators. So here you can imagine having all the EMONC indicators, statistics here that are ready to be seen. And if I click, for example, on SONUC here, it will filter, and it will display only the SONUC in my network. So it's another way of easily filtering your data. I continue my story map. I show the road here of Togo, and again I can go in there and show some, zoom in. Actually, I was showing this road network to show that in some places in the wet season it's very hard to go through. And this is the population of Togo. Again, the nearest the traveling map, and I've put some legend in here so that viewers the story map can understand. This is the catchment, and here I'm just zooming to show some issue with the road network that we already all the time have. This is the satellite image and the road network on top of it. And if I go in the map, just to show that, in some places the rivers do not follow really the real rivers. If we look at the road, some of the roads are not well digitized. So you can actually showcase the issue live in your map, which is quite interesting. I continue my story map just to show, this 4-country. And now I go to the snakes, which is in another project that I have, which I'm showing some sampling area in Nepal and some individual house sampling. And you see here, it's interesting because you can really showcase some, the individual survey locations that you have done, and so that's quite interesting. Okay, I think you got the point. So I will stop here. I go out of the story map now, back in my MapX windows, and of course here on the left I can find all the data that you've seen in the story map. I have access to, so I can just fire one of these and look at it, interact with it. So in a nutshell, this is some of the functionality of MapX, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.